When Ethan Clark locked eyes with his ex-wife in a grocery store checkout line, his entire world shattered in an instant, because the little girl standing beside her had his dimple, his eyes, and his smile. She'd vanished 7 years ago without a trace, leaving only a note and a broken marriage behind. But Naomi had taken something far more precious with her, a secret that would destroy everything he thought he knew. The question wasn't just whether the child was his, it was whether Naomi would ever forgive him for what he was about to do to find out. What happened next involved lies, paternity tests, a devastating betrayal, and a reckoning that would either rebuild their shattered family or tear it apart forever. But here's the twist. The biggest secret wasn't about who left who, it was about who was willing to fight when everything fell apart. Subscribe right now and comment where you're watching from, because this story takes more turns than a mountain road, and trust me, you won't see the ending coming. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Ethan Clark stood in the cereal aisle, staring at boxes he couldn't care less about. Frosted Flakes, Honey Clusters, generic brands with cheerful mascots. None of it mattered. He didn't even know why he'd stopped at this grocery store. The meeting in the suburbs had ended hours ago. He could have driven straight back to the city, back to his glass-walled penthouse with its empty rooms and spotless kitchen, but something had pulled him off the highway. Maybe he was tired of restaurants. Maybe he wanted to feel normal for once. He grabbed a box at random and headed toward the checkout. That's when he saw her. The woman stood 3 people ahead in line, dark brown skin, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans and a soft yellow sweater that looked worn, but clean. She was checking her phone while balancing a reusable shopping bag on one hip. Ethan's breath caught. It couldn't be. He took a step closer. His heart hammered against his ribs. 7 years. 7 years since he'd last seen that face, that walk, that way she tilted her head when she was concentrating. Naomi, his ex-wife. The cereal box nearly slipped from his hand. He gripped it tighter, his knuckles going white. What was she doing here? She'd vanished after their divorce. No forwarding address, no mutual friends willing to tell him where she'd gone. She'd just disappeared. And now here she was, in a suburban grocery store on a Tuesday evening. Ethan's gaze shifted to the little girl standing beside her. The child couldn't have been more than 6. She had dark curls that bounced as she hopped from foot to foot, chattering about something Ethan couldn't hear. Her skin was a beautiful light brown, and when she tilted her face up toward Naomi, Ethan saw it. The dimple, his dimple, the one on the left cheek that appeared only when smiling big, the same hazel green eyes he saw in the mirror every morning, the same curve of the chin. His stomach dropped. No, it couldn't be. The girl tugged on Naomi's hand, and Naomi smiled down at her. That smile, warm, protective, full of a love so fierce it radiated across the store. Ethan had seen that smile before, years ago, when they'd first fallen in love, when she'd looked at him like he was her whole world, before he'd ruined everything. Naomi glanced up then, just a casual sweep of the room, the kind everyone does while waiting in line. Their eyes met. She froze. The color drained from her face. Her hand tightened around the little girl's, pulling her closer. For a moment, neither of them moved. The world narrowed to just that space between them, 20 feet of linoleum tile and years of silence. Then Naomi looked away, fast. She said something to the cashier, her movements suddenly jerky and rushed. She grabbed her bags without even checking the receipt. The little girl asked something, but Naomi just shook her head and ushered her toward the exit. Ethan dropped the cereal box. It hit the floor with a dull thud. He was already moving. "Excuse me. Sorry." He pushed past the other shoppers, ignoring their annoyed glances. His heart pounded. His hands shook. He had to catch her. He had to know. The automatic doors slid open. Cold evening air hit his face. Naomi was halfway across the parking lot, practically dragging the little girl behind her. The child kept looking back, confused, but Naomi didn't slow down. "Naomi!" His voice cracked on her name. She stopped, just for a second. Her shoulders tensed. Then she kept walking. "Naomi, please!" Ethan broke into a jog. His dress shoes clicked against the asphalt. Rain had started to fall, soft, steady drops that made the parking lot lights blur. She reached a modest sedan, fumbling with her keys. The little girl climbed into the back seat, and Naomi shut the door, putting herself between Ethan and the car. He stopped a few feet away, close enough to see the tears in her eyes, close enough to see how much she'd changed, and yet how much she hadn't. She was still beautiful, still fierce, Still the woman he'd lost because he'd been too blind to see what mattered. Naomi. His voice came out softer this time, almost broken. Is she mine? The question hung in the rain-soaked air. Naomi's jaw tightened, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. When she spoke, her voice was low and sharp. You lost the right to ask me anything the day you chose your work over us. That's not 7 years, Ethan. 7 years of nothing. And now you show up in a grocery store and think you can just... She stopped herself, pressing a hand to her forehead. No, I'm not doing this. She moved toward the driver's door. Ethan stepped in front of the car, not blocking her exactly, but close enough that she'd have to acknowledge him. Please just tell me. Get out of my way. I need to know. What you need stopped mattering a long time ago. Through the back window, the little girl watched them. Her small face was pressed against the glass, eyes wide with curiosity and something that might have been worry. Naomi saw her looking and sucked in a breath. She turned back to Ethan, and this time her voice trembled. Stay away from us. I mean it. She got in the car. The engine started with a tired rumble. Ethan stepped back, the rain soaking through his suit jacket now. He watched as she backed out of the space, tires splashing through puddles. The tail lights glowed red in the darkness. Through the rear window, he caught one more glimpse of the little girl. She waved, just a small movement of her hand, and she smiled. That dimple appeared, his dimple. The car turned onto the main road and disappeared. Ethan stood there, rain dripping down his face, mixing with tears he didn't remember starting to cry. That's my smile, he whispered to the empty parking lot. The penthouse was exactly as he'd left it. Clean, quiet, cold. Ethan dropped his briefcase by the door and walked straight to his bedroom without turning on the lights. The city sprawled below his windows, a million glittering lights that used to make him feel powerful, successful. Tonight they just looked empty. He knelt beside his bed and pulled out a cardboard box from underneath. It was dusty. He'd shoved it there years ago and tried to forget it existed. Inside were the pieces of a life he'd thrown away, wedding photos. The cheap kind from a courthouse ceremony, because they'd been too young and too broke for anything fancier. Naomi in a simple white dress, flowers from the grocery store in her hand, smiling like she'd won the lottery. Him in a borrowed suit, grinning like an idiot because he couldn't believe someone like her had chosen someone like him. A menu from the diner where they'd had their first date. She'd spilled coffee on her shirt and laughed instead of getting embarrassed. A birthday card she'd made him, covered in terrible drawings and inside jokes he'd forgotten until now. And letters. God, the letters. Back when he'd traveled for work, before email became their only contact. She used to write him real letters on actual paper, telling him about her day, about the neighbors, about how much she missed him. He'd saved every single one. Ethan picked up their wedding photo. They looked so happy, so young, so completely unaware that 5 years later, they'd be strangers signing divorce papers in a lawyer's office. His fault. All of it. He'd gotten his first big promotion and threw himself into work. Longer hours, more travel, more networking events and business dinners. Naomi had tried. She'd asked him to stay home more, to take a real vacation, to remember that there was more to life than climbing the corporate ladder. He'd promised he would. Next month, next quarter, next year. And then one day he'd come home to an empty apartment and a note on the kitchen counter. I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry, please don't try to find me. He'd respected her wishes, told himself she was better off without him, buried himself even deeper in work, until he'd made his first million, then his first 10 million. It hadn't filled the hole she'd left. Ethan pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts, found Cole's number, his business partner, and the closest thing he had to a real friend. Cole answered on the second ring. Little late for a business call, isn't it? I saw Naomi. Silence on the other end. Then, you're Naomi? My ex-wife, yes. Where? Grocery store in the suburbs. She was with a little girl. Ethan's voice cracked. Cole. She looked exactly like me. Another pause. Longer this time. You sure? Same eyes, same dimple, same... He couldn't finish. Couldn't put into words what he'd felt when he saw that child's face. What did Naomi say? She told me to stay away. Maybe you should listen. She's my daughter, Cole. I know she is. You don't know anything yet, and even if you're right, barging into their lives after 7 years, Cole sighed. You might do more harm than good. Ethan stared at the wedding photo, at Naomi's smile, at the man he used to be before money and success became his only goals. I have to know the truth. Then do it right. Not like everything else you've screwed up. The words stung because they were true. After they hung up, Ethan opened his laptop. 20 minutes of searching through social media and old records gave him what he needed. Naomi Brooks, still using her maiden name, living in a small town about 45 minutes outside Atlanta, working at a local cafe called the Morning Cup. And 6 years ago, right around the time of their divorce, she'd stopped posting on social media for almost a year. When she came back, there were pictures. Her holding a tiny newborn, her mother visiting, friends bringing casseroles, a baby girl named Lila, no father mentioned anywhere. Ethan closed the laptop and lay back on the bed, still holding the wedding photo. Somewhere out there, Naomi was probably tucking that little girl into bed, reading her a story, kissing her goodnight. His daughter, maybe, probably. He needed to know for sure. The Morning Cup sat on a quiet street corner, the kind of place with mismatched chairs and local art on the walls. Through the window, Ethan could see Naomi behind the counter. She wore an apron and had her hair pulled back in a bun. She was laughing at something a customer said. She looked lighter here, more herself than she'd been in those last months of their marriage, when every conversation had ended in silence or fighting. This was a mistake. He should leave, get in his car and drive back to the city and let her have this life she'd built without him. But then he remembered that little girl's smile, the way she'd waved at him through the car window. He opened the door. A bell chimed. Several customers looked up. Naomi did too. Her smile vanished. She said something to the woman beside her, a co-worker probably, and walked out from behind the counter. She met him near the entrance, her arms crossed. "I shouldn't be here. I know, I'm sorry, I just, He trailed off. What could he say? "Can we talk? Just for a few minutes?" "No, please, Naomi." She glanced back at her co-workers, then at the customers watching them with open curiosity. Her jaw clenched. 5 minutes outside. They sat at one of the small tables on the sidewalk. Morning sun warmed the concrete. Birds chirped in the tree overhead. It would have been peaceful if Ethan's heart wasn't racing. Naomi sat stiff and straight, hands folded on the table, waiting. "I'm sorry," he started, "for yesterday, for showing up like that, for everything." He was sorry for everything, for the way things ended between us. "That was 7 years ago, Ethan." "I know. So what do you want? Why are you here?" He looked at her then, really looked. The tiny lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. The way her hands looked rougher, like she'd been working hard. The guard she'd put up, walls so high he might never get over them. "Is she mine?" Naomi's expression didn't change. Her father died before she was born. The words hit him like a punch to the gut. "What?" "Lila's father passed away. He never got to meet her." She stood up. "Your 5 minutes are up." "Naomi, wait." But she was already walking back inside. Ethan sat there, his mind reeling. Dead. But that didn't make sense. The timeline didn't add up. They'd divorced 7 years ago. Lila was 6. If there had been someone else, unless she was lying. But why would she lie? To protect her daughter from a father who'd already proven he couldn't stick around, to keep him from disrupting the life they'd built, to punish him for all the ways he'd failed them. All of the above, probably. Ethan pulled out his phone and stared at it. Then he did something he wasn't proud of, something he knew was wrong, but couldn't stop himself from doing. He called a private investigator he'd used for business before, asked for a full background check on Naomi Brooks, where she'd been the last 7 years, who she'd been with, everything. He hated himself, even as he gave the instructions, but he had to know. 3 days passed. Ethan rented a room at a small bed and breakfast in town. He told himself it was just for a few days, just until he figured things out. He found himself driving past the cafe each morning, past the elementary school where he saw Naomi drop Lila off, past the park where they went on Wednesday afternoon, Lila running ahead to feed the ducks while Naomi sat on a bench with a book. He was careful to keep his distance, didn't approach them, didn't let them see him. It was creepy. He knew that. But watching them felt like looking through a window into the life he should have had, could have had, if he'd just paid attention to what mattered. Lila was bright. Even from far away he could see that. She hopped instead of walked, made friends with every dog they passed, threw bread to the ducks with such enthusiasm that she almost fell in the pond, and Naomi had to grab her jacket to pull her back. They laughed together, constantly, the kind of easy, natural joy that came from really knowing someone. Ethan sat in his car at the park's edge and watched them. A knot formed in his throat. On his phone, an email notification appeared. The private investigator. Results were in. He opened it with shaking hands. The report was thorough. Too thorough, maybe. It detailed Naomi's life since the divorce. The apartment she'd rented first, small and cheap. the job at a diner where she'd worked double shifts, the hospital visit 9 months after their divorce where she'd given birth to a baby girl. No father listed on the birth certificate, no record of any relationship, no boyfriend, no partner, just Naomi and Lila. And according to medical records Ethan felt sick for even reading. Naomi had been 8 weeks pregnant when she'd left him. His hands shook so badly he almost dropped the phone. 8 weeks pregnant. She'd known. She'd known when she walked out, when she left that note, when she'd vanished without a trace and she'd never told him. The anger came first, hot and sharp. How could she keep that from him? How could she raise his child without ever giving him a chance? But then the guilt followed, crushing, heavy, because he knew why she'd left. He remembered the fights, the broken promises, the nights he'd stumbled home at midnight to find her crying at the kitchen table, dinner cold on the stove. She'd left because staying would have broken her, and she'd kept Lila a secret because she didn't trust him, didn't believe he'd be there. She was probably right. Ethan closed the email and drove to the closest drugstore, bought a paternity test kit, the kind you could mail to a lab. His hands still shook as he paid. Back in his car, he stared at the box. This was wrong. He knew it was wrong, but he needed proof, needed something concrete. He drove to the cafe and parked down the street. Waited. After an hour, Naomi came out with Lila. They walked to their car, Lila skipping ahead. She dropped something, a small hairbrush from her backpack. Naomi was digging for car keys and didn't notice. Ethan waited until they'd driven away. Then he walked over and picked up the brush. Several strands of hair were tangled in the bristles, dark brown, with those same natural curls he'd seen. He put the brush in a plastic bag, carefully, like it was evidence at a crime scene. That night he packaged it with his own DNA sample and mailed it to the lab. The email confirmation came through immediately. Your sample has been received. Results in 5 days. Ethan sat on the edge of his hotel bed, head in his hands. What had he done? What was he doing? If the test came back positive, then what? Storm into Naomi's life and demand to be part of Lila's? Tear apart the peaceful world they'd built? And if it came back negative? Walk away knowing he'd violated their privacy for nothing? He didn't sleep that night, or the next. Just lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering if there was any way to undo the damage he kept causing. Saturday morning brought sunshine and crowds. The farmers' market filled the town square with vendors and music and the smell of fresh bread. Ethan had been walking aimlessly, trying to clear his head when he saw them. Naomi and Lila at a fruit stand. Lila was examining strawberries with intense focus, while Naomi talked to the vendor. Ethan should have turned around, walked away. Instead, he found himself moving closer. Lila saw him first. She looked up from the strawberries, her little face curious. Then she smiled, that dimpled smile, and waved. Hi. Naomi followed her daughter's gaze. When she saw Ethan, her whole body went rigid. Lila, come here. But Lila was already walking over. Did you come to buy strawberries too? Mummy says we can make jam. Ethan knelt down to her level, his heart pounding. Up close, she was even more beautiful. Her eyes were bright and curious, just like his used to be before life made him cynical. That sounds fun, he managed. Do you like strawberries? I do. Me too. They're my favorite. Except for pizza. Pizza's also my favorite. Despite everything, Ethan smiled. Both can be favorites. That's what I said. Lila beamed. Naomi appeared beside them, her hand on Lila's shoulder. Her voice was tight. We need to go. But Mommy, I want to show him. Now, Lila. The little girl's face fell. Ethan stood up slowly, meeting Naomi's eyes. There was fear there, and anger, and something else he couldn't quite read. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I didn't mean to. Mommy, can he have lemonade with us? Please? Naomi closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were harder. Lila, this man, please, he seems nice. The word nice hung between them. Ethan watched Naomi's internal struggle play out across her face. She didn't want him there, didn't want him anywhere near her daughter. But Lila was looking up at her with those pleading eyes, and Naomi's shoulders sagged in defeat. Fine. 10 minutes. They sat at a picnic table near the lemonade stand. Lila chattered non-stop about school, about her friends, about the frog she'd found in the garden last week. Ethan listened to every word, storing each detail like treasure. Naomi stayed quiet, her arms crossed, watching him like he might bolt at any moment. What's your name? Lila asked between sips of lemonade. Ethan. That's a nice name. I'm Lila, and this is my mommy. I know. He glanced at Naomi. "We're old friends." "Oh," Lila brightened. "From when you were little." "From when we were a bit older than little." Naomi's phone buzzed. She checked it, then stood abruptly. "We have to go. Grandma's expecting us." "But Mommy." "Now, Lila." The little girl sighed dramatically but got up. As they walked away, she turned back and waved at Ethan. "Bye, Ethan." "Bye, Lila." Naomi didn't look back, but just before they disappeared into the crowd, Ethan could have sworn he saw her smile. Just the smallest upturn of her lips, there and gone in a second. Like maybe, just maybe, some small part of her didn't completely hate seeing him. It wasn't much, but it was something. Ethan sat there long after they'd left, the sun warm on his face, tasting hope for the first time in years. The email arrived on Wednesday. Ethan was eating breakfast at a diner when his phone buzzed. He almost didn't check it, almost let himself have one more day of uncertainty. But he looked. Subject: paternity test results available. His appetite vanished. He left cash on the table and walked outside. The parking lot was nearly empty. He sat in his car, phone in hand, staring at the email. One click. That's all it would take. One click and he'd know for sure. His finger hovered over the screen. Then he opened it. The medical jargon made his eyes blur. He skipped down to the summary section, the part written in plain English. Conclusion: the alleged father cannot be excluded as the biological father. The probability of paternity is 99.98%. The phone slipped from his hand. 99.98%. She was his. Lila was his daughter. He'd missed 6 years. 6 years of firsts. First steps, first words, first day of school. 6 years of bedtime stories and scraped knees and birthday parties. All because he'd been too blind to see what mattered, and because Naomi hadn't trusted him enough to tell him. Both things could be true. Ethan picked up his phone and stared at Naomi's address. He'd memorized it from the investigator's report. A small house on Maple Street, painted blue with white shutters. He started the car. Traffic was light. 20 minutes later, he was parked outside her house. The yard was neat, with flowers planted along the walkway. A child's bike leaned against the porch. Through the front window, he could see movement. Naomi was in the garden on the side of the house, pulling weeds. She wore old jeans and a t-shirt, her hair covered with a bandana. She looked peaceful, content. Ethan got out of the car, the envelope with the test results clutched in his hand. This was it, the moment that would change everything. He walked up the driveway. His footsteps crunched on the gravel. Naomi looked up, saw him. Her face went from surprise to confused to angry in the span of seconds. "What are you—" "She's mine, Naomi." The words came out louder than he meant them to, stronger. He held up the envelope. "The test proves it. Lila is my daughter." All the color drained from Naomi's face, and then the storm broke. Naomi dropped the weeds she'd been holding. They scattered across the grass like confetti at the world's worst party. "You did what?" Her voice was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that came before thunder. Ethan took a step forward. "I needed to know. You tested my daughter, without asking me." Her voice rose now, shaking with fury. "You took her DNA and ran a test behind my back." "Our daughter," he corrected without thinking. Wrong thing to say. Naomi's eyes flashed. She closed the distance between them in 3 quick steps, and for a moment, Ethan thought she might actually hit him. "She is my daughter. Mine. I'm the one who carried her for 9 months while working 2 jobs. I'm the one who was up all night with her colic. I'm the one who held her through every fever, every nightmare, every scraped knee. Where were you?" "I didn't know." "Because I didn't tell you," she was shouting now. A neighbor's curtain twitched. "I didn't tell you because you weren't there, Ethan. You were never there. You chose money and meetings and some fantasy life over us, and I wasn't going to let my baby grow up watching her father care more about his bank account than her." The words hit like bullets, each one deserved, each one true. "I know I messed up," Ethan said. His own voice cracked. "I know I was a terrible husband, but that doesn't change the fact that she's mine too. I had a right to know." "You had a right?" Naomi laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You had a right to be present. You had a right to show up. You had a right to remember that vows meant something. You lost all your other rights when you walked past me crying at the dinner table night after night and didn't even notice." The front door opened. Lila stood there in her pajamas, holding a stuffed rabbit. Her eyes were wide and scared. "Mommy!" Naomi's whole demeanor changed instantly. She straightened, forced her face into something softer. "It's okay, baby. Go back inside." "You're yelling." "I know. I'm sorry." Just give Mommy a minute, okay? Lila looked from her mother to Ethan. Something flickered across her small face. Recognition, maybe, or just confusion. Then she nodded and went back inside, but Ethan could see her watching through the window. Naomi turned back to him. When she spoke again, her voice was lower but no less angry. You need to leave. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You invaded our privacy. You went behind my back again. She shook her head. That's what you do, isn't it? You decide what you want and you don't care who you hurt to get it. That's not fair. Fair. She stepped closer. Close enough that he could see the tears gathering in her eyes. You want to talk about fair? I left you a note, Ethan. One note. And you know what you did? Nothing. You didn't call. Didn't come looking for me. Didn't fight for us at all. So I figured you were relieved. That you got exactly what you wanted. Freedom to work 80-hour weeks without anyone nagging you about it. I thought you wanted space. I wanted you to care enough to try. Her voice broke. I wanted you to prove me wrong. To show up at my door and say you were sorry, that you'd change. That we mattered more than your next promotion. But you didn't. So I moved on. I built a life for me and my daughter. A good life. A peaceful life. And now you show up with your test results and your demands and you expect me to just, what? Welcome you back? I just want a chance. You've done enough damage. She pointed toward his car. Her hand trembled. Get off my property and stay away from Lila. I mean it, Ethan. Stay away from both of us. Naomi, now. He looked at the house. Lila's face was pressed against the window. Her rabbit clutched tight. She wasn't smiling anymore. Ethan turned and walked back to his car. Each step felt heavier than the last. Behind him, he heard Naomi's front door slam shut. The sound echoed in his chest all the way back to the hotel. He drove aimlessly after that. Through neighborhoods he didn't recognize, past parks and schools and shopping centers that all looked the same. The sun set. The streetlights came on. He kept driving. Eventually, he found himself back at the town square. The farmer's market was long gone, but a few shops were still open. People walked their dogs. A couple sat on a bench sharing ice cream. Normal life. The kind Ethan had forgotten existed. He parked and got out, walked until his legs hurt, past the cafe where Naomi worked, past the elementary school where Lila probably learned to read and make friends and be a kid. His phone rang. Cole. Hey, Ethan answered. You sound terrible. I told her. About the test. Silence on the other end. Then, and? She kicked me out. Told me to stay away. Can you blame her? No, he couldn't. You did the test without asking her permission, Cole continued. That's not okay. You know that, right? I needed proof. You needed trust, and you proved you don't have any. Cole sighed. What were you thinking? I don't know. Ethan sat down on a bench, the same bench where he and Naomi and Lila had drunk lemonade just days ago. I wasn't thinking. I saw her, Cole, my daughter, and I knew, but I needed it to be real. I needed something concrete. Instead of just talking to Naomi like a human being, she lied to me. She said the father was dead. She protected her kid from a father who'd already abandoned them once. The words stung, mostly because they were true. What do I do? Ethan asked. You apologize, sincerely. Not I'm sorry but, or I'm sorry you feel that way. Just, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I'll do better. She won't listen. Then you prove it through actions instead of words. You want to be in that little girl's life? You earn it, slowly, patiently, the way you should have fought for Naomi 7 years ago. After they hung up, Ethan sat there in the dark. A couple walked past holding hands, laughing about something. A teenage girl rode by on a bike, earbuds in, singing off-key. The world kept turning, life kept happening. And somewhere nearby, Naomi was probably tucking Lila into bed, reading her a story, telling her everything was okay, even though a ghost from her past had just showed up and turned their world upside down. Ethan stood up, started walking back to his car. He'd give her space, a few days maybe, let her calm down, and then he'd try again, because walking away might have been easier. But he'd done that once already. He wasn't doing it again. 3 days passed. 3 long, miserable days of Ethan sitting in his hotel room, working remotely and pretending his life wasn't falling apart. On the 4th day, he drove to the cafe, not to go inside, just to see. Through the window, he saw Naomi struggling with a stack of boxes, heavy ones from the looks of it. She was trying to maneuver them through the door while keeping it propped open with her hip. One of the boxes slipped. She caught it, but barely. Before he could overthink it, Ethan was out of the car and crossing the street. He caught the door just as another box started to slide. Naomi froze when she saw him, her jaw clenched. "Don't," she said. "Let me help." "I don't need your help." But she did. The boxes were clearly too heavy for one person, and the door was already swinging closed. Ethan grabbed the top box. "Where do these go?" For a moment, he thought she might refuse, might tell him to put it down and leave. Then her shoulders sagged. "Storage room, back left." They worked in silence. 4 trips from the delivery truck to the storage room. The boxes were full of coffee supplies, beans, filters, cups with the cafe's logo. Naomi directed where each one should go with curt nods and pointed fingers. When the last box was stacked, she turned to him. "Thank you." 2 words, said grudgingly, but said nonetheless. "You're welcome." She moved to walk past him. He caught her arm gently. "Naomi, wait. Please." She stopped but didn't look at him, just stood there, her arm tense under his fingers. "I'm sorry," he said. "About the test, about doing it behind your back. You were right. It was wrong. I should have talked to you first. But you didn't." "No, I didn't." He let go of her arm. "I can't undo it. But I am sorry." She finally looked at him. Her eyes were tired, like she hadn't been sleeping well either. "Why are you still here, Ethan? What do you want from us?" "A chance. Just a chance to know her, to be part of her life." "And what happens when you get bored, when work gets busy and you remember you have meetings and deals that matter more than bedtime stories?" "That won't happen. You don't know that." "You're right," he admitted. "I don't. But I want to try. I want to be better than I was." Naomi studied his face, searching for something, sincerity maybe, or proof that he meant it. Whatever she saw, it wasn't enough. "One of my employees just called in sick," she said finally. "I need to cover the afternoon shift. We're done here." She walked past him toward the front of the cafe, but she didn't tell him to leave, so Ethan sat at a corner table and ordered coffee he didn't want. He pulled out his laptop and pretended to work while really just watching Naomi move through the cafe, taking orders, making drinks, laughing with regulars. An hour passed. Then 2. The door chimed. Ethan looked up. Lila burst through, backpack bouncing on her shoulders. Naomi's mother followed behind her, Mrs. Brooks looking older but still sharp-eyed. "Mummy!" Lila ran to the counter. "Hey, baby, how was school? I got a gold star on my spelling test. Look!" She waved a paper covered in careful letters and a shiny star sticker. "That's wonderful. I'm so proud of you." Lila beamed. Then her gaze swept the cafe and landed on Ethan. Her face lit up. "Ethan, hi." She started toward him, but Mrs. Brooks caught her shoulder. "Lila, honey, why don't we get you some juice? Say hi from over here." But Lila was already pulling away, crossing the cafe with the fearlessness only 6-year-olds possessed. "What are you doing here? Do you work on computers? My friend's dad works on computers too. He fixes them when they break. Can you fix computers?" Ethan smiled despite himself. "Sometimes." "What did you learn in school today?" "Spelling words. Want to hear them?" "I can spell friend and happy and because. That one's hard because it has a weird C and an E." "Lila." Naomi appeared beside them. Her voice was gentle but firm. "Come help me clean the espresso machine." "But I'm talking to Ethan." "I know, but it's time to come help Mommy now." Lila sighed dramatically. "Okay, bye, Ethan." "Bye, Lila." As Naomi led her daughter away, she glanced back at him. The look on her face was complex. Frustration maybe, but also something softer, like she'd seen something in that moment between him and Lila, something that made her hesitate. Mrs. Brooks was not so conflicted. She walked straight to his table, arms crossed. "I know who you are," she said quietly. "Mrs. Brooks, you broke my daughter's heart once. I watched her cry herself to sleep for months. She was pregnant and alone and scared, and you were nowhere to be found." Ethan couldn't meet her eyes. "I know. So what are you doing here now, playing house? Trying to ease your guilty conscience?" "I'm trying to be a father. A father shows up. A father stays. Can you do that? Or are you just going to break their hearts again when something shinier comes along?" "I'm not leaving." Mrs. Brooks leaned down, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You better mean that. Because that little girl, she's been asking about her daddy since she could talk. And Naomi always told her that her daddy was in heaven, that he loved her but couldn't be here. So if you're going to be here, you better be all here. Not halfway. Not when it's convenient. All the way. You understand me?" "Yes, Mom." She held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded once and walked back to the counter. Ethan sat there, hands shaking around his coffee cup. Lila had been asking about him, about a father she'd never met, and Naomi had lied to protect her, had let her daughter believe something easier than the truth, that her father had chosen not to be there. The weight of that settled heavy in his chest. A week passed, then another. Ethan didn't leave town. He called his office, moved some meetings around, worked remotely from the hotel. Cole thought he was crazy. His assistant thought he was having a breakdown. Maybe he was. But every day, he found small reasons to be nearby. Coffee at the cafe, a walk through the town square, groceries at the store where he'd first seen them. And gradually, slowly like ice melting in spring, Naomi's walls started to crack. He helped when she needed it, carried boxes, held doors, moved chairs when the cafe rearranged the layout. She didn't thank him every time anymore, just accepted the help with a small nod. And Lila was sunshine, pure, undiluted joy. Every time she saw him, she'd light up and chatter about her day, her teacher, her friends, the bugs she'd found at recess. Naomi never encouraged it, but she stopped actively preventing it too, until one afternoon when Lila ran up to him waving a bright yellow flyer. "Ethan! Ethan, look! It's the family fair at my school. There's going to be games and prizes and everything. You should come." She thrust the flyer at him. It advertised an event for the following Saturday. Balloon animals, face painting, a cakewalk. "That sounds fun," Ethan said carefully. "Mommy's coming and Grandma too. You could come with us." Naomi appeared behind her daughter. "Lila, Mr. Clark is probably busy." "I'm not," Ethan said quickly. Then to Naomi, "If it's okay with you." He saw the war on her face, the desire to say no, to keep him at arm's length, but Lila was bouncing on her toes, eyes pleading. "Please, Mommy, please, please, please." Naomi closed her eyes. When she opened them, she looked tired. "Fine. 2:00. Don't be late." Lila squealed and threw her arms around Ethan's legs in a surprise hug. "Yes, this is going to be so fun." She ran off to tell her grandmother the good news. Ethan stood there, stunned by the warmth of that small body pressed against him, the absolute trust in that gesture. "Don't make me regret this," Naomi said quietly. "I won't." She studied him for a long moment, then walked away without another word. Saturday came with perfect weather. Blue sky, warm sun, a light breeze that smelled like spring. The school parking lot was packed, families everywhere, kids running around with balloons, the sound of laughter and music. Ethan spotted them near the entrance. Naomi in jeans and a soft green shirt, Mrs. Brooks holding Lila's hand, and Lila herself, practically vibrating with excitement. "Ethan!" She waved both arms over her head. "Over here." He walked over, suddenly aware that he was underdressed. He'd chosen casual clothes, jeans and a button-down, but everyone else looked more relaxed, more parent-like. "You came." Lila grabbed his hand. "Come on. I want to show you my classroom first." She dragged him forward. Naomi followed behind with her mother, who shot him a warning look that said, "Don't mess this up." The school was decorated with student artwork and bright banners. Lila showed him everything, her desk, her cubby with her name on it, the reading corner where they had story time. "And this is my friend Emma, and that's Connor. He eats glue sometimes, but he's nice. And this is where we do art." She introduced him to her teacher, who smiled politely and called him Lila's friend. The word stung a bit, but what else would she call him? They spent the afternoon moving from booth to booth. Lila played every game. Ethan won her a stuffed unicorn at the ring toss. She insisted on carrying it everywhere, hugging it tight. At the cakewalk, she grabbed both his hand and Naomi's, making them stand in the circle with her. When the music stopped, Lila's number was called. She jumped up and down, chose chocolate cake, and demanded they all share it. They sat at a picnic table, Ethan, Naomi, Lila, and Mrs. Brooks. The cake was too sweet and the frosting was lopsided, but Lila acted like it was the best thing she'd ever tasted. "This is the best day ever," she announced, chocolate smeared on her chin. Naomi wiped her daughter's face with a napkin, smiling, really smiling, not the careful, polite smile she gave customers. For just a moment, Ethan could imagine what it might have been like if he'd been there from the beginning, if he'd been the kind of man who came to school fairs and won stuffed animals and ate bad cake with his family, if he'd been the man Naomi deserved instead of the one he'd been. "Thank you for coming," Naomi said quietly, not looking at him, just staring at Lila, who was now showing the unicorn to another kid. "Thank you for letting me." She glanced at him then. Something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Or just two people acknowledging how strange and complicated this all was. "She likes you," Naomi said. "I like her. She's amazing." "Yeah, she is." Naomi's voice was soft, proud. "She's the best thing I ever did." We, Ethan said before he could stop himself. The best thing we ever did. Naomi stiffened, started to pull away. I'm sorry, he said quickly. I didn't mean… No, you're right. She looked down at her hands. I can't keep pretending you're not her father. She deserves better than that. So do you. She laughed, but it was sad. I don't know what I deserve anymore. Before Ethan could respond, Lila ran back over. Mummy, can we stay for the balloon animals? Please? Of course, baby. They stayed until the sun started to set, and the fair began to wind down. Lila fell asleep on the drive home, or so Naomi texted him later, with a photo of Lila clutched around her unicorn, mouth open in a deep sleep. Ethan stared at that photo for a long time. His daughter, actually truly his. The next week Naomi surprised him. She invited him to dinner. Nothing fancy, she said at the cafe. Just, Lila wants to cook with you. She saw some recipe on TV and is convinced she needs your help making it. What recipe? Spaghetti, with meatballs shaped like dinosaurs apparently. Ethan smiled. I can help with dinosaur meatballs. 6 o'clock. Don't be late. He wasn't. He arrived at 5:55 with flowers for Naomi and a children's cookbook for Lila. Naomi stared at the flowers. Simple daisies, nothing expensive, like she didn't know what to do with them. Thank you, she said finally, and put them in a vase by the window. Lila dragged Ethan to the kitchen immediately. They spent an hour making dinner together, mixing meat and spices, shaping them into clumsy dinosaur shapes that looked more like blobs. Lila laughed the whole time, flour in her hair, sauce on her shirt. Naomi watched from the doorway, arms crossed, a small smile on her face. When dinner was ready, they sat at the small kitchen table. Lila told them about a book she'd read at school. Naomi shared a funny story about a customer at the cafe. Ethan talked about a project he was working on, simplifying it so Lila could understand. It felt normal, easy, like they'd been doing this for years instead of days. After dinner, they cleaned up together. Ethan washed dishes while Naomi dried. Their elbows bumped. Once, their hands touched, reaching for the same plate. Naomi pulled back like she'd been burned. Sorry, it's okay. Silence fell between them. Not uncomfortable exactly, but charged with things unsaid. I never remarried, Naomi said suddenly. Ethan paused, hands still in the soapy water. What? After us? I dated a few times, but… She set down the dish towel. No one felt right after you. The words hung in the air. Naomi, I'm not saying that to make you feel guilty, or to give you hope. I'm just… She shrugged helplessly. I'm just saying it, because it's true, and I'm tired of pretending things that aren't true. Ethan turned to face her fully. They were close in the small kitchen, close enough that he could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. I never moved on either, he admitted. I tried to, threw myself into work even harder, made more money, bought more things, but none of it filled the space you left. They stared at each other. The moment stretched, taut, full of possibility. Then Naomi looked away. Lila needs a bath. I should… Right, of course. She left the kitchen quickly. Ethan finished the dishes alone, his heart pounding. Over the next few weeks, a routine developed. Ethan would visit in the evenings, help with homework, read bedtime stories, stay for dinner more often than not. Mrs. Brooks still watched him with suspicious eyes, but she didn't actively interfere anymore. And Lila bloomed. She attached herself to Ethan with the pure, uncomplicated love only children possessed. Asked him about his day, showed him her drawings, fell asleep on the couch with her head on his shoulder during movie nights. Naomi watched it all with a mix of emotions Ethan couldn't quite read. Joy at seeing her daughter happy, fear that this was all temporary, maybe something else, something that looked like longing when she thought no one was watching. One evening, after Lila was in bed, they sat on the porch together. The night was warm. Crickets chirped in the darkness. Can I ask you something? Naomi said. Anything. Why now? Why show up after all this time? Ethan considered the question. Honestly, I don't know if I would have. If I hadn't seen you that day in the grocery store, I might have spent the rest of my life pretending I was fine. He turned to look at her. But I saw her, saw you, and something just broke open. All the things I'd been ignoring, all the ways I'd failed you. I couldn't pretend anymore. So this is guilt? No. Yes. Maybe partly. He ran a hand through his hair. But it's more than that. I look at Lila and I see this amazing person, this bright, funny, kind little human, and I can't believe I almost missed knowing her. Can't believe I wasted 7 years being miserable when I could have been part of this. Naomi was quiet for a long time. I was scared, she finally said. "When I found out I was pregnant, I was terrified, because I knew if I told you, you'd probably do the right thing. Come back, try to make it work. But I didn't want you there out of obligation. I wanted you there because you chose us, because we mattered more than anything else." She wiped at her eyes. "And I didn't think we did, so I left." "You mattered," Ethan said softly. "You always mattered. I was just too stupid and stubborn to show it." "Yeah, you were." They sat in silence, shoulder to shoulder on the porch steps. "I missed you," Naomi whispered. "God help me. I missed you every day." Ethan reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. They stayed like that until the porch light clicked off automatically, and the world narrowed to just the two of them and the darkness and the weight of years between them. Things changed after that night. Subtly, but definitively. Naomi's smiles came easier. The walls came down inch by inch. They talked more. Real conversations, not just surface pleasantries, about the past, about their mistakes, about what might come next. But Mrs. Brooks remained wary. She came over one afternoon when Ethan was there, pulled Naomi aside. Ethan pretended not to listen, but he heard every word. "You're letting him in too fast. Mama, that man hurt you. Don't forget that." "I haven't forgotten. But Lila deserves to know her father." "And what about you? What do you deserve?" Silence. "I see the way you look at him," Mrs. Brooks continued, "like you're falling for him all over again. But people don't change, baby. Not really. Maybe not. But maybe they can grow. Maybe we both can." Mrs. Brooks sighed heavily. "Just be careful, please. I can't watch you break again." Later that night, after Mrs. Brooks had left, Naomi seemed distant, distracted. Ethan was helping Lila with a puzzle when Naomi called from the kitchen. "I need to run to the cafe. Forgot some paperwork. Lila, can you—" "I'll stay with her," Ethan offered. Naomi hesitated. It was the first time she'd be leaving them alone together. Really alone. "Please, Mommy," Lila said. "We're almost done with the puzzle." "Okay, I'll be back in 30 minutes. Bedtime is 8:30. "We've got it," Ethan assured her. After she left, Lila finished the puzzle with intense concentration. Then she looked up at Ethan with serious eyes. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Are you going to stay? Or are you going to go away like Mommy said my daddy did?" Ethan's heart clenched. "I'm staying. Promise?" "I promise." Lila studied his face, then nodded, satisfied. "Okay, good, because I like having you here. It feels—" She struggled for the word. "Complete. Like we were missing a piece and now we found it. Out of the mouths of children." "I feel that way too," Ethan said, his voice thick. She hugged him then, tight, like she was afraid he might disappear if she let go. He held her carefully, this small miracle he'd almost lost. When Naomi got home, she found them on the couch. Ethan reading a story, Lila curled against his side, fighting sleep. Something in Naomi's expression softened. She stood in the doorway watching them, and for a moment, everything felt right. But good things never stay simple for long. A week later, Naomi collapsed. It happened at the cafe. One moment she was fine, the next she was on the floor. Clara, her co-worker, called an ambulance, then called Ethan. He was there in 10 minutes, speeding through town with his heart in his throat. The ambulance was pulling away when he arrived. Clara stood outside holding Lila, who was crying. "What happened?" "I don't know. She just fainted. They're taking her to County General. I'll follow them. Can you—" "I'll keep Lila. Go." But Lila pulled away from Clara and grabbed Ethan's hand. "I want to come. That's my mommy." He looked at Clara, who nodded. "Take her. She needs to be with family." Family. The word echoed in Ethan's head the whole drive to the hospital. They rushed to the emergency room. A nurse directed them to a waiting area. Said Naomi was stable, but they were running tests. Exhaustion, probably. Maybe dehydration. Lila climbed onto his lap and buried her face in his chest. He held her and whispered that everything would be okay, even though his own hands were shaking. Hours passed. Lila fell asleep against him, her small body heavy with trust. Ethan stroked her hair and stared at the clock and tried not to think about all the things that could go wrong. A doctor finally appeared. "Family of Naomi Brooks?" "That's us," Ethan said. The doctor smiled. "She's fine. Exhaustion and low blood pressure. She's been working too hard. We're keeping her overnight for observation, but she should be able to go home tomorrow." Relief flooded through him. "Can we see her?" "Room 314. But the little one should probably sleep." "Please," Lila mumbled, half awake. "I need to see Mommy." The doctor's expression softened. "Okay, just for a few minutes." They found Naomi in a hospital bed, looking pale but awake. When she saw them, Tears filled her eyes. "Lila, baby." Lila scrambled onto the bed carefully, curling against her mother's side. "You scared me, Mommy." "I know. I'm sorry. I'm okay. I just needed to rest. Ethan brought me. He stayed with me the whole time." Naomi looked at him over Lila's head. "Thank you." "Of course." Lila yawned hugely. "I'm sleepy." "Me too, baby. Close your eyes." Within minutes, Lila was asleep again, sprawled across Naomi's lap. The hospital room was quiet except for the beep of monitors and the sound of their breathing. "I've been pushing too hard," Naomi said quietly. "Working extra shifts to save money, trying to do everything myself. You don't have to anymore. Don't I? Let me help. Really help. Not just dinners and homework, everything." She looked at him, tired, vulnerable. "I don't know how to trust that. Then let me prove it, however long it takes." They talked through the night, quiet words in the darkness, about fears and hopes and the complicated mess they'd made of things. And somewhere around 3 in the morning, with Lila asleep between them, Naomi reached for Ethan's hand. He held it carefully, like the precious thing it was. The next morning, Naomi was discharged. Ethan drove them home, helped get Lila ready for school, made breakfast. Naomi watched him move through her kitchen with a strange expression. "What?" he asked. "Nothing, just—" She shook her head. "This is surreal, you being here, acting like family?" She didn't answer. After he left to take Lila to school, Naomi went to retrieve her purse from Ethan's car. He'd left it unlocked. She opened the passenger door and reached for her bag. That's when she saw it. An envelope, tucked into the side pocket of the door. It had shifted during the drive and now lay partially visible. Naomi's name was on the front. She shouldn't look. She knew she shouldn't, but her hand moved anyway. She pulled out the envelope and opened it. Inside was the paternity test report, complete with dates. The test had been done weeks ago, before the farmer's market, before the school fair, before any of their dinners and conversations and the slow rebuilding of trust. Before he'd apologized for doing it without asking, he'd already had the results, had already known the truth, and he'd lied to her. Let her think the apology was sincere. Let her believe he was being honest. Naomi's vision blurred. The paper crumpled in her shaking hands. Not again. Not again. She left the report on his dashboard and walked back to her house on legs that barely held her. By the time Ethan returned from the school run, she was waiting on the porch. Her face was stone. "Naomi, get off my property." His face went pale. "What?" She held up her phone. She'd taken a picture of the report. "You're a liar. You've always been a liar. And I'm done. I can explain—" "There's nothing to explain." Her voice cracked. "You had the test results all along. You let me think you were sorry. Let me start to trust you again, all while hiding this. I was going to tell you—" "When?" "After I fell in love with you again. After Lila got attached." "When, Ethan?" "I'm sorry. I was scared you'd react exactly like this. So you lied. Because that's what you do. You choose the easy path, the one that gets you what you want." She stood up. "I let you back in. I let you near my daughter, and you repaid that by lying to my face. Please, Naomi, please just listen." "No." She went to the door, stopped, looked back at him with eyes full of tears and fury. "Don't come back. Don't call. Don't show up at the cafe or the school or anywhere near us. We're done. For good this time." She went inside and locked the door. Ethan stood on the porch, the morning sun beating down on him, and felt his second chance slip away. Ethan drove. He didn't know where he was going, didn't care. He just needed to move, to put distance between himself and the look on Naomi's face when she'd discovered his lie. The hotel room felt suffocating when he finally stopped. He sat on the edge of the bed and stared at nothing. His phone buzzed. Cole. "Hey man, I messed up." Ethan's voice came out flat, empty. "She found the test results. The real ones. From before." Silence. Then, "You didn't tell her." "I was going to. I was scared. And now she won't even look at me. Can you blame her?" No, he couldn't. "Maybe you should come home," Cole said gently. "Give her space. Give yourself space. This clearly isn't working. Home." The word felt hollow. The penthouse wasn't home. It never had been. But maybe Cole was right. Maybe he'd done enough damage. Maybe the kindest thing he could do was disappear again. Let Naomi and Lila have their peaceful life back. "Yeah," Ethan said. "Maybe you're right." He hung up and started packing. By the time the sun set, his bags were in the car. The hotel room key was on the front desk. Everything was ready. He sat in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel. The engine didn't start. He sat there for 20 minutes. Then an hour, watching the sky darken and the streetlights flicker on. He thought about Lila's laugh, the way she'd fallen asleep on his shoulder, the absolute trust in her eyes when she'd asked him to promise he wouldn't leave. He thought about Naomi in the hospital, the way she'd reached for his hand in the darkness. He thought about the man he'd been 7 years ago, the one who'd let her walk away without a fight, who'd told himself it was for the best, who'd chosen the easy path. And he thought about the man he wanted to be. Finally, he took his hands off the wheel. He wasn't running. Not again. Even if Naomi never forgave him, even if he never got another chance, he was staying. The next few days were the hardest of Ethan's life. He gave Naomi space. Didn't go to the cafe, didn't drive past her house, didn't try to call, but he didn't leave town either. He rented a small apartment. Nothing fancy, just a place to sleep and think and figure out what came next. Cole called every day. "You're torturing yourself." "I know. She's made it clear she doesn't want you there." "I know that too. So what's the plan? Just exist in the same town forever, hoping she changes her mind?" Ethan didn't have an answer. He spent his days working remotely, trying to focus on emails and conference calls and business deals that all felt meaningless now. He'd spent 7 years building an empire of money and success. And for what? To sit alone in a tiny apartment, wondering if he'd ever see his daughter again. On Thursday, his assistant emailed about a massive deal in New York, the kind that could make him millions, the kind he used to live for. He stared at the email for a long time. Then he picked up the phone and called Cole. "I need you to take the New York deal." "What? Why?" "Because I'm not going." "Ethan, this is huge. This is what we've been working toward for months. I don't care." Silence on the other end. "I'm selling the penthouse," Ethan continued, "and most of my shares in the company. I want to stay here, build something different." "Are you serious?" "More serious than I've ever been. This is about her, about them." "Yeah, it is." Ethan looked out the window at the quiet street below. "I spent 7 years chasing money, chasing success, and it didn't make me happy. It didn't fill anything. But one afternoon playing games at a school fair with my daughter, one dinner cooking terrible dinosaur meatballs, that mattered. That felt real." Cole was quiet for a long moment. "You've changed." "I'm trying to." "What if she still doesn't forgive you?" "Then at least I'll be close enough to be there, to show up, to prove I'm not going anywhere this time." After they hung up, Ethan pulled out a notebook. He started writing. The letter took him 3 days. Draft after draft, crossing out words and starting over. He'd never been good with words, with expressing the things that mattered, but he tried. He poured everything onto the page, every regret, every moment he'd replayed in his mind, every way he'd failed her and every way he wanted to do better. When he finally finished, his hand cramped and his eyes burned, but the words were true, all of them. He sealed the letter in an envelope, wrote Naomi's name on the front, and then he waited. Naomi's world felt grey. She went through the motions, got up, got Lila ready for school, went to work, smiled at customers, came home, made dinner, tucked Lila into bed, but everything felt muted, distant. Lila kept asking about Ethan. Where was he? Why wasn't he coming over anymore? Had she done something wrong? Each question was a knife to the heart. "He's busy, baby," Naomi told her. The same lie she'd used before, the safe lie. He had to go back to his work, but he promised he'd stay. "I know." Did he lie? Naomi couldn't answer that, because he had stayed. He was still in town. Clara had seen him at the grocery store, still here, giving her space, but not leaving, which somehow made it worse. One evening, Mrs. Brooks came over with casserole. She took one look at Naomi and shook her head. "You look terrible." "Thanks, Mama. I'm serious. When's the last time you ate a real meal? Slept through the night?" Naomi just shrugged. Mrs. Brooks set the casserole down and pulled out a chair. "Sit. I'm fine." "Sit down, baby." Naomi sat. Her mother studied her face. "You're miserable." "I'm angry." "You're both." Mrs. Brooks sighed. "Look, I'm not that man's biggest fan. You know that. But what? He didn't come back here for answers, or because he felt guilty." She reached across and took Naomi's hand. "He came back for you." Naomi pulled away. "He lied to me." "He did, and that was wrong. But people make mistakes, especially when they're scared." "I gave him a chance, Mama. I let him into our lives, into Lila's heart, and he threw it away by lying. Or he made a bad choice because he was terrified of losing you again." Mrs. Brooks stood up. "I'm not saying forgive him. I'm just saying to make sure you're staying angry for the right reasons, because you're actually hurt, or because it's easier than risking getting hurt again. After she left, Naomi sat in the quiet kitchen. The house felt empty without Ethan's presence. No one helping with dishes, no one reading bedtime stories, no one making her laugh with terrible jokes while they cooked. She went to Lila's room. Her daughter was asleep, arms wrapped around the stuffed unicorn Ethan had won her. On the nightstand was a drawing. Naomi picked it up. 3 stick figures, labels in Lila's careful handwriting. Me, Mommy, Daddy. They were holding hands, big smiles on all their faces, a sun in the corner, hearts everywhere. Naomi's vision blurred. She sank onto the edge of the bed, clutching the drawing, and let herself cry. Really cry. For the first time since finding that report. She cried for the girl she'd been, the one who'd believed in love and second chances, the one who'd left because she was scared and proud and hurt. She cried for the years they'd lost, for Lila's questions about her daddy, for all the moments Ethan had missed. And she cried because her mother was right. She was angry. But underneath the anger was fear. Bone-deep terror of letting him back in only to watch him leave again. Lila stirred in her sleep. Mommy? Naomi wiped her eyes quickly. I'm here, baby. Are you sad? A little. Is it because of Ethan? Yeah, sweetie, it is. Lila sat up, rubbing her eyes. I miss him. I know. Do you miss him too? Naomi looked at her daughter, at this beautiful, perceptive child who saw straight through every defense. Yeah, she whispered. I do. Lila hugged her, small arms squeezing tight. Then maybe we should tell him that, out of the mouths of children. Friday morning dawned cold and grey. Rain threatened. Naomi opened the cafe early. She needed the routine, needed something to focus on besides the ache in her chest. She was setting up the espresso machine when Clara arrived. Morning, boss. Morning. Clara studied her face. You look terrible. I know. My mum already told me. I was going to say sad. Clara started arranging pastries. Have you talked to him? There's nothing to say. Naomi, he lied, Clara, just like before, just like always. I can't trust him. Can't or won't? The question hung in the air. Before Naomi could answer, the door chimed. Ethan walked in. Naomi's heart jumped into her throat. She hadn't seen him in over a week. He looked thinner, tired. His eyes were shadowed, and his jaw was rough with stubble. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. We're not open yet, she managed. I know. I'll leave in a minute. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. I wrote you something. You don't have to read it. You can throw it away if you want, but I needed to give it to you. He set it on the counter, didn't move closer, didn't try to touch her. Naomi, I know I messed up. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I need you to know something. His voice cracked. I'm not leaving. I sold my penthouse. I'm staying here, not because I think you'll forgive me, not because I'm trying to force my way back in, but because this is where my family is, and even if I can only be part of Lila's life from a distance, even if you never speak to me again, I'm staying, because that's what I should have done 7 years ago. He turned toward the door. Ethan, wait. He stopped. Didn't turn around. Naomi's hands shook. You sold your penthouse, and most of my shares in the company. Cole thinks I've lost my mind. Have you? Maybe. He finally looked back at her. But for the first time in years, I feel like I'm thinking clearly. Money and success and all of that. It doesn't matter. Not compared to this. To you and Lila. Naomi couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Read the letter, he said softly. Or don't. Either way, I'll be here. Whenever you're ready. If you're ever ready. He left before she could respond. Naomi stared at the envelope on the counter. Clara appeared beside her. Well, that was something. Yeah. Are you going to read it? Naomi picked up the envelope, her name on the front in his handwriting. Messy but careful. She opened it with shaking hands. The letter was pages long, front and back of notebook paper, words crossed out and rewritten. It was messy and raw and completely unlike the smooth, polished businessman she'd married. It was real. Naomi, I don't know how to start this. I've written it a dozen times and every version feels wrong, but I need to try. I was wrong. About everything. 7 years ago I was wrong to choose work over you, to let you leave without fighting, to tell myself it was for the best when really I was just scared and selfish, and I was wrong this time too. I should have told you about the test immediately, should have been honest instead of hiding behind fear. I told myself I was protecting what we were building, but really, I was just protecting myself. Again, I've spent my whole life taking the easy path, the safe path. And it cost me everything that mattered. But I'm done running, done choosing comfort over courage. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know trust isn't given, it's earned. And I know I've broken yours more times than anyone should forgive. But I'm asking for the chance to try, to show up every day, to prove through actions, not words, that I'm different, that I've learned, that family means more than money, and love means more than pride. I'm staying in town. I found a small house 3 blocks from yours, close enough to be there if you need me, far enough to give you space. I'm not going to show up uninvited. I'm not going to push. I'm just going to be here, steady, consistent, the way I should have been from the start. If you never want to see me again, I'll respect that, but I'll still be here for Lila, for school events and emergencies and whatever else she needs, because she's my daughter. And being her father isn't something I'm going to walk away from, not ever again. And if someday, maybe not now, maybe not for months or years, but if someday you think you might be able to trust me again, I'll be here for that too, because I love you, Naomi. I never stopped. I just forgot how to show it, forgot that love is a choice you make every single day, a choice to stay, to fight, to be present, even when it's hard. I'm choosing you, both of you, every day from now on. I'm sorry for all of it, and I'll spend the rest of my life proving I mean it. Naomi read it twice, then a third time, tears streaming down her face. Boss? Clara's voice was gentle. You okay? I don't know. She looked up. Through the window she could see the street. Grey sky, rain starting to fall, and suddenly she was 22 again, standing in their tiny apartment, packing a bag while Ethan was at work, 8 weeks pregnant and terrified. Leaving a note because she didn't have the courage to say goodbye to his face. She'd been so sure that he'd never change, that work would always come first, that she and the baby growing inside her would always be second place. But what if she'd been wrong? Not about who he was then, but about who he could become. People did change. She had. She'd gone from a scared girl fleeing her marriage to a strong woman raising a child alone. She'd built a life from nothing, found her strength. Maybe he'd found his too. Clara, Naomi said suddenly, can you cover the cafe for a bit? Of course, where are you going? To do something I should have done a long time ago. She grabbed her coat and keys. The rain was falling harder now, but she didn't care. She ran. Ethan's new house was small, a cottage-style rental with blue shutters and a tiny porch, the kind of place he never would have looked at twice 7 years ago. Now, it was perfect. He was unpacking boxes when he heard the knock. His heart stopped. He opened the door. Naomi stood there, soaking wet from the rain, hair plastered to her face, letter clutched in her hand. You're an idiot, she said. I know. You lied to me. Twice. I know. And you broke my heart 7 years ago, and I swore I'd never let you do it again. I know. His voice was barely a whisper. I'm so sorry, Naomi, for all of it. She stepped closer. But you're also the only man I've ever loved, the only one who made me feel like I was enough, and you're Lila's father, and she needs you. Her voice broke. And I need you too. Ethan couldn't breathe, couldn't move. I'm scared, Naomi continued, terrified, because what if this doesn't work? What if you decide it's too hard or too boring or too much? What if... He kissed her, soft and gentle and full of 7 years of longing. When he pulled back, her eyes were wide. I'm not going anywhere, he said firmly, ever. I don't care if it's hard. I don't care if it's boring. I don't care if it's too much. This, you and Lila, this is everything, and I will spend every single day proving that to you. You really sold your penthouse? Signed the papers yesterday? And your company? Keeping enough to work remotely and pay bills, but I'm done chasing money, done missing what matters. Naomi searched his face, looking for lies, for cracks, for any sign this was temporary. She didn't find any. Okay, she whispered. Okay, come home. The words came out shaky but sure. Come home, Ethan. He pulled her close, held her tight, felt her shake with tears or relief or both. We take this slow, she said against his chest. No rushing. No promises we can't keep. We figure it out as we go. Whatever you need. And if you ever lie to me again, I won't. I swear on everything I am, I won't. She pulled back to look at him. I want to believe you. Then let me prove it. They stood in the doorway, rain falling around them, holding each other like they were the only two people in the world. Lila's going to be so happy, Naomi said finally. Ethan smiled, really smiled, the kind that reached his eyes. Can we tell her together? Yeah, we can. That evening, Ethan came over for dinner. Lila saw him through the window and screamed. She burst out the front door and launched herself at him. He caught her, spinning her around. "You're back, you came back." "I'm back, sweetheart, and I'm not leaving again. Promise?" "Promise." She hugged him so tight he could barely breathe. Over her head, his eyes met Naomi's. She stood in the doorway, smiling through tears. They went inside, made dinner together. Lila chattered non-stop, showing Ethan everything he'd missed in the past week. A spelling test, a drawing, a loose tooth. After dinner, they sat on the couch, Lila between them, clutching both their hands. "Are you my real daddy?" she asked suddenly. Silence fell. Ethan looked at Naomi. She nodded. He turned to Lila. "Yeah, sweetheart, I am." "Why weren't you here before?" The question was simple, devastating. "Because I made mistakes," Ethan said honestly. "Big ones. I didn't know about you, and when I found out, I didn't do things the right way. But I'm here now, and I'm going to be here for everything from now on. If that's okay with you." Lila considered this seriously. "Like school stuff and birthdays?" "School stuff and birthdays and everything in between. Can I call you Daddy?" His throat closed up. "I would really love that." She hugged him then. "Okay, Daddy." Over her head, Ethan met Naomi's eyes again. She was crying openly now. They stayed like that for a long time, the three of them on the couch, a family, imperfect and complicated and real. When Lila finally fell asleep between them, Naomi whispered, "We have a lot to figure out." "I know. This isn't going to be easy. I know that too. But I want to try. Really try." "So do I." Ethan carried Lila to her bed, tucked her in carefully, kissed her forehead and whispered, "I love you, baby girl." When he came back to the living room, Naomi was waiting. "I should go," he said. "Give you space. We're taking this slow, right?" She nodded, but her hand found his. "Thank you," she said softly, "for not giving up, for staying, for fighting this time. Thank you for letting me." He kissed her forehead, gentle, reverent. "I'll see you tomorrow, tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. I'll be here," he promised, "every single day." The weeks that followed were a careful dance. Ethan came over most evenings, helped with homework and bedtime, but he went home to his rental house after, giving Naomi space to breathe. They talked, really talked, about their marriage, about what went wrong and why, about what they wanted now, what they needed. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of friction, old wounds that hadn't quite healed, but they worked through them, together. Mrs. Brooks visited one Saturday. She found Ethan in the backyard, teaching Lila how to throw a baseball. "Can we talk?" she asked him. "Of course." They sat on the porch steps while Lila practiced her throws. "I was wrong about you," Mrs. Brooks said finally. Ethan blinked. "Ma'am, I said people don't change, but you have. I see it. The way you look at my daughter, the way you are with Lila, that's not the same man who broke Naomi's heart. I'm trying not to be. I know, and I'm sorry for being so hard on you." She patted his knee. "Welcome to the family. For real this time." It was a small thing, but it meant everything. 2 months after their reconciliation, Ethan moved out of the rental house into a small house 3 doors down from Naomi's. "Close, but not too close," Naomi said when he told her his plans. "That's good. We're not rushing this." But most nights he fell asleep on her couch after Lila's bedtime. Most mornings he made them all breakfast. It wasn't perfect. They still had arguments, still had moments of doubt, but they worked through them, together, and slowly, carefully, the broken pieces started to fit back together. One night, 3 months in, Naomi found Ethan on the porch. He was staring at the stars. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "How different everything is. How close I came to missing all of this." He pulled her close. "I was so lost, Naomi, for so long, and I didn't even know it. And now? Now I'm found." She rested her head on his shoulder. "I never stopped loving you. I tried. God knows I tried. But you were always there, in the back of my mind, in every choice I made. I love you too, more than I know how to say. Then show me. Every day. That's all I need. I can do that." And he did. Every single day. 6 months after everything fell apart and came back together, Ethan surprised them with a picnic. "Nothing fancy," he promised. "Just us and some sandwiches and a perfect afternoon." They went to the park, the same one where they'd fed ducks, where Lila had met him for the first time with lemonade and curiosity. The weather was perfect. Blue sky, warm sun, a light breeze that smelled like summer. Lila ran ahead, exploring, climbing trees and chasing butterflies. Ethan and Naomi spread out the blanket. I have something for you, he said. Ethan, it's not what you think, just open it. He handed her a small velvet box. Naomi's hand shook as she opened it. Inside was a silver locket, simple and beautiful. When she opened it, she found a photo. The three of them at Lila's school fair, squished together and grinning. This time, I'm not running anywhere, Ethan said softly. This time, I'm all in, for better or worse, for the long haul. Tears streamed down Naomi's face. Help me put it on. He fastened it around her neck. His hands lingered on her shoulders. I love you, he whispered. Both of you, more than anything. I love you too. They kissed, soft and sweet and full of promise. Mommy, Daddy, come see. Lila's voice rang across the park. They stood up, hands intertwined, and walked toward their daughter. She'd found a patch of wildflowers, was picking them carefully, making a bouquet. For us, she announced. Our family. She handed one to each of them, then held their hands swinging between them as they walked back to the blanket. Ethan looked at Naomi, at their daughter, at the life they were building together, piece by careful piece. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was theirs, and it was enough. More than enough. It was everything. 3 months later, autumn painted the town in gold and orange. The air turned crisp. Leaves crunched underfoot. Life had settled into a rhythm, a good one. Ethan spent every evening with his family, dinner at Naomi's house, homework help, bedtime stories, then home to his own place 3 doors down. It was working, slow and steady, just like they'd promised. But something was changing. Ethan woke up in his rental house and felt wrong. The walls were too quiet, too empty. He'd made coffee for one too many mornings, driven home alone too many nights. He wanted more, but rushing would ruin everything. He knew that, so he kept quiet, kept showing up, kept proving he was there for the long haul, until one Tuesday morning changed everything. He was at his kitchen table working on his laptop when his phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Clark, this is Principal Martinez from Oakwood Elementary. We have Lila in the office. She asked us to call you. His heart stopped. Is she hurt? No, she's fine. Just upset. She got into an argument with another student and won't stop crying. We called her mother first, but she's not answering. You were listed as an emergency contact. I'll be there in 5 minutes. He was there in 3. The school office was quiet. Through the glass door, he could see Lila sitting in a chair, face buried in her hands. Her small shoulders shook with sobs. Lila, she looked up. Tears streaked her face. Her eyes were red and swollen. Daddy, she launched herself at him. He caught her, held her tight. What happened, sweetheart? Tommy said, he said, she hiccuped through tears. He said I was lying, that you weren't my real dad, that real dads don't just show up. Ethan's chest tightened. Oh, baby, but you are my real dad, right? You're not going to leave again? I'm your real dad, and I'm never leaving. Never. Promise? I promise. On everything. I'm here forever. She clung to him, crying into his shirt. He sat down in the chair and held her, rocked her gently the way Naomi did when Lila had nightmares. Principal Martinez appeared with tissues. We spoke with the other boy. He'll be apologizing to Lila tomorrow. Thank you. Mr. Clark, I should mention, we tried calling Ms. Brooks several times. Her phone went straight to voicemail. That was odd. Naomi always answered when the school called. I'll take Lila home, Ethan said, and I'll check on her mother. In the car, Lila was quiet. She held Ethan's hand across the console, squeezing tight like she was afraid he'd disappear. Want to talk about it? He asked gently. Tommy's mean. He says stuff to make people cry. That's not okay. I know. Teacher says he's going through a hard time. His parents are getting divorced. Lila looked out the window. Like you and Mommy did. Yeah, sweetheart, like we did. But you came back. Tommy's dad isn't coming back. The weight of that statement settled heavy. Not all stories end the same way, Ethan said carefully. Some dads make mistakes and learn from them. Some dads don't, and that's really sad. But it's not the kid's fault, ever. It's not my fault you left before? No, baby, not even a little bit. That was all my fault. Adult stuff. Nothing to do with you. She nodded slowly. Okay. They pulled up to the cafe. Ethan could see through the window. Naomi was working, busy with the lunch rush. She hadn't seen the missed calls yet. Wait here for just a second, okay? He went inside. The cafe was packed. Clara rushed past with a tray of food. Ethan, thank God. Can you grab those coffees? I'm drowning here. He helped without thinking. Grabbed the coffee pot, refilled mugs, cleared tables, fell into the rhythm of it. Naomi looked up from the espresso machine and saw him. Surprise flickered across her face, then worry. "What are you doing here? Is everything—" "Lila's fine. She had a rough morning at school. They tried calling you." Naomi's face went pale. She pulled out her phone. "Oh no, I left it in the back. I didn't hear—" She looked toward the door, saw Lila sitting in the car. "I need to go. I've got this. Ethan, you don't have to—" "I know, but I want to. Go be with our daughter." She hesitated only a moment, then grabbed her purse and rushed outside. Ethan watched through the window as Naomi opened the car door. Lila fell into her arms, crying again. Naomi held her, stroking her hair, whispering things he couldn't hear. Clara appeared beside him. "You're good at this." "At what?" "Being here. Being part of things." She smiled. "She's lucky. They both are. I'm the lucky one." He spent the next 2 hours working the cafe, taking orders, making drinks, chatting with customers. Some of them knew who he was. Naomi's ex, Lila's father. They watched him with curious eyes. He didn't care. Let them watch. Let them see him show up. When the lunch rush finally ended, Naomi came back inside. Lila was with her, calmer now, sipping hot chocolate at a corner table. "Thank you," Naomi said, "for everything, for getting her, for helping here, for—" "Stop thanking me, this is what family does." She looked at him for a long moment. Something shifted in her expression, something important. "Come over tonight, after Lila goes to bed. We need to talk." His stomach dropped. "Okay." "It's not bad," she added quickly. "I promise, it's just time." That evening felt endless. Ethan helped with dinner, played board games with Lila, read her 2 bedtime stories instead of 1 because she asked so sweetly. When she finally fell asleep, he found Naomi on the porch. 2 mugs of tea waited on the railing. He sat beside her. "So, we need to talk." "Yeah." She took a breath. "This isn't working anymore." His heart plummeted. "Naomi, not us. Us is working. But this, you living 3 doors down, going home alone every night, being separate, it's not working." She turned to face him. "I don't want you to go home tonight." "What?" "I don't want you to leave, not tonight, not any night." Her voice shook slightly. "I want you here, really here, not visiting, not careful, just here." Ethan couldn't breathe. "Are you sure?" "I've been sure for weeks. I was just scared. But then today, watching you drop everything to get Lila, seeing you help at the cafe without being asked, the way you are with her—" She grabbed his hand. "You've proven it, Ethan, every single day. You're not the man you were. And I'm not the girl I was. We're different now, better." "I love you," he said. "So much it scares me." "I love you too. And I'm done being scared." She smiled. "Move in. Stay. Be here for all of it. The good days and the hard ones. The breakfast chaos and the bedtime meltdowns. The boring Tuesdays and the special Saturdays. All of it. You mean it?" "I mean it." He kissed her, deep and long, and full of everything words couldn't hold. When they pulled apart, both were crying. "Tomorrow," she said. "Start bringing your stuff tomorrow. Or tonight. Or right now. I don't care. Just be here." "Okay." He laughed through tears. "Okay. Yes." They sat together on the porch steps, his arm around her, her head on his shoulder, the night warm and full of promise. "Lila's going to lose her mind," Naomi said. "Good lose her mind or bad?" "The best kind. She's been asking when you were going to live with us. I kept saying, maybe someday. Now I get to say, now." "Now," Ethan repeated. The word tasted like hope. The next morning, Lila came downstairs for breakfast and found Ethan in the kitchen, making pancakes. She stopped, stared. "Why are you here so early?" "Because I live here now," Ethan said. "If that's okay with you." Lila's eyes went wide. "Really? Like, really, really? Really, really?" She screamed. Pure joy. Launched herself at him so hard he nearly dropped the spatula. Yes, 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 I knew it. I told Emma you were going to stay and she said maybe, but I knew." Naomi appeared in the doorway, smiling. "Happy? This is the best day ever." They ate pancakes together, made plans for how to rearrange the house. Lila wanted Ethan's desk in the corner of the living room so she could do homework next to him, wanted his books on her bookshelf, wanted everything mixed together. "We're a real family now," she announced. "Like Emma's family, all together." "We were always a real family," Naomi said gently. "But yes, now we're all under the same roof." After breakfast, after Lila was at school, Ethan and Naomi drove to his rental house. It didn't take long to pack. He'd never really unpacked, never fully committed to living there because deep down, he'd always hoped for this. By evening, his belongings were integrated into Naomi's house, his clothes in her closet, his toothbrush by the sink, his coffee mug in the cabinet. Small things, but they mattered. That night he fell asleep in Naomi's bed, her head on his chest, her breathing slow and even. He stared at the ceiling and felt something he hadn't felt in 7 years, complete. Weeks turned into months. Fall became winter. The house filled with new routines. Ethan's alarm at 6, coffee brewing, Naomi stumbling down half asleep, Lila's footsteps thundering on the stairs, breakfast chaos, backpack searches, goodbye kisses, work, school, the cafe, then evenings together, homework at the kitchen table, dinner conversations, dishes side by side, movie nights with Lila between them, bedtime stories, tucked-in kisses, whispered I love yous, and finally, quiet time, just the two of them, talking about their days, making plans, healing the last of the old wounds. It wasn't perfect. They had arguments, moments of friction, old patterns that crept back in, but they worked through them, together. One December evening, Mrs. Brooks came for dinner. She watched Ethan help Lila with her math homework, patient and gentle even when Lila got frustrated. "You're good at that," she said, when Lila ran upstairs to get something. "She's smart, just needs someone to believe in her." "She has 2 someones now," Mrs. Brooks smiled. "I'm glad I was wrong about you." "You weren't wrong. Not about who I was. But you're different now." "I'm trying to be." She patted his arm. "You're doing more than trying, son. You're succeeding." Later that week, Naomi found him on the porch again. It had become his thinking spot. "What's on your mind?" she asked. "Just grateful for all of this, for you giving me another chance. You earned it. I almost didn't. Almost gave up and left town that day after you found the test results. What stopped you?" "Lila, the promise I made her, but also," he pulled Naomi close, "you, us, the idea that maybe some things are worth fighting for even when it seems impossible. I'm glad you stayed." "Me too." They stood together watching snow start to fall, big, fluffy flakes that stuck to everything. "It's going to be Lila's first Christmas with both of us," Naomi said softly. "I know. I've been thinking about that." "Me too." Christmas morning came cold and bright. Lila woke them up at dawn, bouncing on the bed. "Santa came! Santa came! Get up!" They stumbled downstairs. The tree glowed with lights, presents piled underneath. Lila tore into them with pure childhood joy, dolls and books and art supplies. But her favorite gift was simple, a framed photo of the 3 of them. Ethan had taken it himself, all of them squished together, laughing at something Lila had said. "For my nightstand," Lila announced, "so I can see us all together every night." After presents, they made breakfast, chocolate chip pancakes, Lila's favorite, then bundled up and went for a walk in the snow. The neighborhood was quiet, peaceful, families inside with their own celebrations. "This is perfect," Lila said, holding both their hands. "I wished for this. Every birthday, every shooting star. I wished for my daddy to come home." Ethan's eyes burned. "Well, I'm home now, and I'm not leaving. Promise?" "Promise." That evening, after Lila was asleep, exhausted from the excitement, Ethan and Naomi sat by the tree. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For this. For letting me be part of it. For forgiving me when I didn't deserve it. You deserved a second chance, everyone does." She leaned against him. "Besides, I'm selfish. I wanted this too. Wanted us. Even when I was angry, even when I was scared, part of me always hoped we'd find our way back. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it. I know you will." Spring came slowly. Snow melted. Green shoots pushed through the ground. The world woke up, and with it came change. One morning, Ethan woke up to find Naomi staring at him. "What?" he asked, still half asleep. "Marry me." He sat up fast. "What?" "Marry me. Again. Do it right this time. Not because we're young and broke and rushing. Because we're ready. Because we've worked for this. Because I want to stand up in front of everyone and say, this is my person, and I choose him every day." Ethan's heart pounded. "Are you serious?" "Completely. I was planning to ask you. I've been looking at rings. I don't need a ring, I just need you." She grabbed his hands. "So what do you say, want to marry me?" He laughed, pulled her close. "Yes, yes, absolutely, yes." They kissed, morning light streaming through the window, the sound of Lila starting to wake up down the hall, their life, their family, their second chance. "When?" Ethan asked. Soon. Small, just us and the people who matter. Perfect, they told Lila at breakfast. She screamed again. That joyful, pure sound that made everything worthwhile. Can I be in the wedding? Of course, Naomi said. You're the most important person there. Can I wear a fancy dress? The fanciest. Lila grinned. This is the best family ever. They got married on a Saturday in May in the backyard, under an arch covered in flowers. Small, like Naomi wanted. Just Clara and Cole, Mrs. Brooks, a handful of friends, and Lila in a lavender dress holding a basket of petals. No fancy venue, no expensive decorations, just the people they loved and the words that mattered. Ethan stood under the arch watching Naomi walk toward him. She wore a simple white dress, flowers in her hair, smiling so wide it hurt to look at. Beside him, Lila bounced on her toes. "That's our mommy," she whispered. "Yes, sweetheart, that's our mommy." Naomi reached them, took Ethan's hands. They'd written their own vows. "I promise to show up," Ethan said. His voice shook. "Every single day. For the big moments and the small ones. For the celebrations and the struggles, I promise to listen, to be present, to never let work or money or anything else come before you. I promise to be the man you deserve, the father Lila deserves, not perfect but trying, always trying." Naomi smiled through tears. "I promise to trust you, to give you grace when you mess up, to let you in even when I'm scared. I promise to build this life with you, to laugh with you, to fight with you when we need to and forgive you when it's hard. I promise to love you, not the perfect version, the real version every day, for the rest of my life." The officiant, their friend from the cafe, smiled. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you married. Again, for real this time. You may kiss." They did, long and sweet and full of promise. Lila threw petals everywhere. "Yay, Mommy and Daddy!" The small crowd cheered. They celebrated with barbecue and cake. Music from a Bluetooth speaker. Kids running around the yard. Adults laughing and telling stories. As the sun set, Ethan found himself standing with Cole. "You did it," Cole said. "You really did it." "Did what?" "Figured out what matters. Most people spend their whole lives chasing things that don't fill them up. But you lost everything and found what was real. I got lucky. She gave me another chance. You earned it. Don't sell yourself short." Cole clinked his beer against Ethan's. 2 second chances. 2 second chances. Later, when most of the guests had left, the three of them sat on the porch steps, Lila between them, half asleep. "Best day ever?" Naomi asked her. "Best day ever," Lila confirmed. "We're married now." "We were always a family," Ethan said. "But yeah, now it's official." "Good," Lila yawned. "'Cause I like us." "Me too, baby. Me too." Summer arrived full and warm. School let out. Lila turned 7. The cafe got busy. Life continued its rhythm. One Sunday in July, Ethan surprised them with a trip. "Where are we going?" Lila asked from the backseat. "You'll see." They drove to the park, the same one where they'd had the picnic, where everything had started to heal. Under the big oak tree, Ethan had set up a blanket, a picnic basket, flowers in a jar. "What's all this?" Naomi asked. "Just wanted to come back here, to where it started, to remember." They ate sandwiches and fruit. Lila played nearby, climbing trees and collecting rocks. The sun was warm, the breeze perfect. Ethan pulled out a small velvet box. "Ethan Clark, if that's a ring after I specifically said I didn't need one. It's not a ring. Open it." Inside was a silver locket, different from the one he'd given her before. This one was heart-shaped. When she opened it, she found 2 photos, one of Lila, one of the 3 of them on their wedding day. "I know you have the other one," Ethan said, "but I wanted you to have this too, a reminder of where we are now, of what we've built." Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "It's perfect." He fastened it around her neck. She touched it gently. "This time I'm not running anywhere," he said softly. The same words he'd said months ago, but they felt different now. Proven. True. "I know," Naomi said. "I believe you." "Mommy, Daddy, come see what I found." They stood up, hands intertwined, and walked toward their daughter. She'd found a patch of wildflowers, was picking them carefully, making a bouquet just like she had that first picnic. "They're beautiful, baby," Naomi said. "Like us," Lila announced. "We're beautiful too, all together, out of the mouths of children." They sat together on the blanket, Lila between them, holding hands, watching clouds drift by. "You know what I learned?" Ethan said. "What?" Naomi asked. "That the best things in life aren't the ones you chase. They're the ones you choose, every single day, the ones you fight for, the ones you protect. He looked at his family, his wife, his daughter, his whole world. This is everything. Yeah, Naomi agreed softly. It is. Lila leaned back against them. I'm glad you came back, Daddy. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. The afternoon sun filtered through the leaves. Birds sang. The world kept turning. And in that moment, under the oak tree where they'd started to heal, they were complete. Not perfect. Perfect didn't exist. But real, honest, together. A family that had broken and been rebuilt. Stronger in the broken places. More beautiful for having been shattered and pieced back together with love and patience and grace. Ready to go home? Naomi asked eventually. Yeah, Ethan said. Let's go home. They packed up the picnic. Lila carried her flowers carefully. They walked to the car, hands linked, sunlight warm on their faces. Home wasn't a place. It was these two people, these moments, these ordinary, extraordinary days. And Ethan would spend the rest of his life showing up for them, every single day, no matter what. 3 years later, the cafe had expanded, a second location downtown, more employees, Naomi's dream growing bigger than she'd imagined. Ethan worked from home now, consulting part-time, enough to contribute but not enough to miss the important things. Lila was 10, smart and funny and kind, still making them laugh every day. And there was a new addition, a baby boy named Marcus, 3 months old, perfect and tiny and loud. Ethan sat on the porch with Marcus sleeping against his chest. Inside, Lila was doing homework at the kitchen table. Naomi was cooking dinner. The scene was chaotic. Toys everywhere, dishes in the sink, laundry waiting to be folded. It was perfect. Cole's words from the wedding echoed in his mind. Most people spend their whole lives chasing things that don't fill them up. Ethan had spent years chasing money and success, building an empire that meant nothing. Now he had chaos and noise and a baby drooling on his shirt, and he'd never been happier. The front door opened. Naomi stuck her head out. Dinner's ready. Be right there. She looked at him holding their son, smiled that smile, the one that still made his heart skip. I love you, she said. I love you too, even with spit up on your shirt and exhaustion in your eyes. Especially then. She laughed and went back inside. Ethan looked down at Marcus, then toward the window where he could see Lila and Naomi setting the table. His family. He'd lost them once through his own stupidity and pride. He'd found them again through grace and second chances, and he would never, ever take them for granted again. Because this was the truth he'd learned the hard way. Love wasn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It was about showing up every day, through the mess and the chaos and the ordinary moments that made up a life. It was about choosing the people who mattered over and over again and being willing to fight for them, even when, especially when, that fight was with yourself. Ethan stood up carefully, cradling his sleeping son, walked inside to his family, to the noise and the chaos and the beautiful, imperfect life they'd built together. The broken places had healed, the lost had been found, and love, real, honest, hard-won love, had proven stronger than fear. That was enough, more than enough. It was everything. The end.